Good evening and welcome to Ladies Can We Talk. So happy you've tuned in tonight. This is Debbie Georgatos, your host, and for the next 2 hours, we're going to talk about standing up and speaking up for America. And the reason I wrote my book, Ladies Can We Talk, is why I do my show and why I do talks around the country. It's all about the idea of digging in and understanding what makes America great, exceptional, and the country everyone would come to if they could, and preserving and protecting those things. And so tonight we have, as usual, a very, very packed show. I'm going to try not to talk too fast because there are so many things I hope we can get to. But in this show tonight, we are going to have a call-in, 2 different guests call in. One is calling in this first hour of the show named Claire Lopez. She's a former CIA operative, a Middle Eastern expert. She's especially an expert on Iran and Islamic influence in America. She is a regular on talk shows of all kinds. She's testified in Congress. She's a leader in the movement in America to be aware of and ready to deal with the threat of Islamic terrorism. Her name is Claire Lopez, and she's calling in at 6:30 tonight. And we're going to talk about something domestic. We're going to talk about the CVE. I'll just say that. I'll tell you later what that is. How about that? She'll call in at 6:30. We also have in the second hour, we have a caller currently she is with the Susan B. Anthony list in Washington, D.C. Prior to that, she was a U.S. Congresswoman from Colorado, and her name is Marilyn Musgrave, and we're going to talk about these Planned Parenthood videos. We're going to spend quite a bit of time with that on the second half, not really reviewing the contents of the videos, but what they say about America, where we are as a country, what we should do about them. What should we as American citizens do about these videos that are showing the Planned Parenthood's willingness and involvement in essentially selling baby body parts. We're going to leave it at that because they're pretty hard videos to watch, but they were undercover videos that we're now going to talk about. What does America do about those kind of things, do about this particular problem? But the last quick introductory thing is I always want, at the start of my show, to give special thanks to the sponsor of this show, which is GC Works. And GC Works, I'm just very grateful for this company. They're a Dallas-based company. They perform research in advanced technology and delivering innovative approaches to the oil and gas industry. And they are a sponsor of this show, and I thank them very much. Okay, in this first segment, in this just first 15 minutes, I always try to do one Speak Up for America point. Speak Up for America is when I sign my books, when I sell them, I write Speak Up for America and Debbie G. And the thing I want to speak up about this week is about political clarity and strength versus bowing to political correctness. This is a building block of America, the need in America to have our elected leaders, our leaders in Congress and the Senate, actually speak up for and actually defend what America is, speak honestly to the American people about the threats we face, and not do politically correct dances and songs and hesitant words, but really to speak strongly. The specific example I want to talk about has to do with Ted Cruz, who is our Texas U.S. Senator, one of our 2 U.S. Senators from Texas, and he's also running for president. And he was commenting on the Iranian deal. And we've talked about the Iranian deal on this show last week extensively. There was a deal negotiated by President Obama and Secretary of State John Kerry with the Iranians, and it has to do with trying to, at the outset, the goal of the negotiations was to stop Iran's march toward nuclear weapons. And it was the goal to have actual inspections of the Iranian potential areas where they may be building nuclear weapons. The entire goal the world had in engaging these negotiations was to prevent Iran from getting nuclear weapons. We're at the point now where the deal is before Congress. They have a 60-day clock to look at the deal and say yes or no. And the point on the what's needed in America, one of the building blocks of America, this political honesty, bravery, clarity, and strength, has to do with what Ted Cruz said about the deal. Now, if you don't know, around the world, Middle East experts of every kind, the countries surrounding Iran are all calling this Iranian deal a disaster, a dangerous capitulation to Iran. Iran's nuclear capacity has been increased by the results of this deal. It is a disaster. And so Ted Cruz made the comment that about the Iranian deal. He said because so much money will go right to Iran as a result of this deal, he called President Obama, the leading financier of terrorism. He's basically saying we negotiated a deal where billions, $150 billion will go back to Iran, and they can use that to purchase weapons. Iran is the number one exporting terrorist country in the world. They already fund terrorist organizations all around the world. They had, during the course of these negotiations, marches in the streets where the people, led by their own president, led by their spiritual leader Khamenei, saying things like, "Death to Israel, death to America." During the time we're negotiating, claiming we're standing up to them, we're telling them you can't have nuclear weapons, they're just mocking. The entire negotiation was a mockery. So what Ted Cruz said was that President Obama is a leading financier of terrorism if this Iranian deal goes through. So this is a factually correct statement. This just is. We are financing terrorism if this deal goes through. But, in the world of Washington, where you can't be impolite and you can't really say what's true, you have to dance around and say quasi-true things, but be a little polite about it. So Mitt Romney, the GOP candidate for president in 2012, fired out a tweet. And he said, essentially in his tweet, that while he opposes the Iranian deal, Senator Ted Cruz is way over the line on the Obama terrorism charge, hurts the cause. Okay, why we're talking about this tonight is this. Mitt Romney, is not president exactly because of the kind of thinking that he showed in that tweet. It's because he doesn't understand about actually standing up strong. He's too willing to be polite. And so you can't really say President Obama is financing terrorism, which is exactly what he's doing. And this Ted Cruz bravery, Ted Cruz came right back and said of not President Romney, of the man who wanted to be president but isn't because he is so timid. What Ted Cruz said in response, he said, "You got clobbered by Obama for a reason." This is exactly right. In this country, we wonder why. We watch the GOP presidential race and we see that this, non-political person, Donald Trump, is running away with it. Now, it's early. I don't really think he's going to be our candidate, but he's leading by a landslide in a slate of now 17 GOP presidential contenders, declared GOP presidential contenders to be president. And by a landslide, Donald Trump is leading. It's because he says what's true. He dares to say things that are just, it's not polite. It's not what you really should say. And what the American people are sick of, especially on the conservative side, they're sick of the lack of bravery we're seeing in Washington. Just exactly the kind of thing Romney said. I'm going to tell you two other reasons why this Iranian deal matters so much. We are, and it's on our Facebook page, Ladies Can We Talk. You can go look it up. We have links to things. I'll put more links up after tonight's show. But no one serious is claiming that this Iranian deal will prevent Iran from getting nuclear weapons. In fact, even President Obama and Secretary of State Kerry have acknowledged, well, they're going to have them in 10 years. This is like giving a nuclear weapon to Hitler, to the worst force in the world. So I just want to ask you to think about something. We all look back at the time that ended World War II when America, the United States of America, fighting Japan, we dropped a uranium bomb. We dropped two bombs, one in Hiroshima, however you want to say it, and the other one in Nagasaki. We dropped those bombs in Japan, and obviously, many, many people were killed instantly. Many were killed later. And America dropped those bombs to stop the war, to end the war. We didn't want to take over Japan. We didn't want to make them a colony. We didn't want to wipe them off the face of the earth. We just wanted to tell them, you have to stop this war. these big bombs in the world, these are major, major events. We've had 2 in the world, and the entire world wrings their hands. And in fact, President Obama, early on in his presidency, tried to go over to Japan and apologize for that, which fortunately the Japanese were not interested. But ask yourself this: if the Japanese could have foreseen the damage that those bombs would do you think maybe they would have said, you know what, okay, we got to stop being the aggressor? I don't know. No one will ever know. But we all know, we look at that instant, we say, this was a horrific thing these bombs do. We don't want to be in the position in America where we went along with a deal out of Romney politeness, out of centrist, moderate, partisan, get along with everybody politics that signs off on a deal, and we end up with Iran with a nuclear weapon, and they have the missiles to fire them off, and have Iran take out Israel, which in there, it is part of their founding documents. They say, Iran says, Israel has no right to exist. We need political bravery, and if we get to the point that Iran has a weapon, and they attack and destroy Israel, and they begin killing more and more Jews and Christians around the world, and they attack America. They have missiles because they want to be able to attack America. If we get to the day that happens, we look back on now and we say to our congressmen and our senators, where were you? How dare you have given them weapons? How dare you not stand up? And one last thing, even though I'm pushing this segment a tiny bit long, I will tell you that part of the lie about this Iranian deal has been the argument from the president. We only had 2 choices. We either had to sign this deal, best deal we could get, or we had let them march on and have a nuclear weapon. There were no other options. And I just want to tell you that first of all, their General Dempsey, a general under President Obama, testified in Congress. We never told him that. That's not true. There were other options. Even his own people are saying it's a lie to say there are only 2 choices. And the other really interesting thing is that in France, one of the top French diplomats involved in this negotiation with Iran said recently, if Congress would vote this down, we could probably get a better deal with Iran. So, ladies and gentlemen, on Ladies Can We Talk, I urge you to get a hold of your congressman and your senator and tell them you demand that they vote against the Iranian deal, that they stop this deal, do everything they can to stop it. And I urge you to think about, do we want a country, do we want elected officials, do we want people in Washington representing us who have the go along to get along political correctness? You can't really say what's true because it might be offensive. Romney-type leaders who, by the way, will never be leaders. They won't win elections because nobody likes that. Or do we want strong, bold color, I'll say what's true leadership? And the answer, of course, is the latter. I don't think Donald Trump is going to make it to the presidency, but we need, because of various things we'll probably talk about later, but I do think we on the Republican side, on the conservative side, we have to be fighting for the strongest representative who will stand up for everything we believe in and not go along to get along. Like Ted Cruz. I'm not particularly endorsing him. I'm just saying there are a lot in the pack, the running for GOP candidacy for president, who are just Romney-light, Romney-like, McCain-like. And number one, they will never win. And number 2, they will lead us into more disaster because they don't have the backbone America needs. Well, we're past the time for a break. So we need to zip off to our break. When we come back, I'm going to change subjects and tell you something really interesting and funny about the Democrat Party. The head of the DNC could not describe on national television any difference between Democrats and socialists. And she's right. We'll talk to her, and then we'll talk at 6:30 with Claire Lopez. Stay tuned. Lots of great information yet to come. Debbie Georgatos, Ladies Can We Talk on 660 AM, The Answer.
660 AM, The Answer.